Folks, picture this. You roll out of bed and there's no electricity. No light switch to flip on. No refrigerator humming in the background. No phone notifications buzzing. Nothing. That was my reality for a week. I'm here today to bring you into that world, sharing the struggles, the ingenious solutions I stumbled upon, and the real eye-openers about what we actually need when the grid goes down. Why subject myself to this, you might wonder? Well, it's all about getting back to the basics, understanding what it really means to stand on our own 2 feet. In this modern age, we're all about convenience, but at what cost? It's time we took a hard look at that. So if you're curious about what life looks like when you strip away the modern comforts, and I mean really strip them down, then stick with me. We're going to dive deep into a week of living purely off the grid, and let me tell you, it's not just about surviving, but about uncovering the hidden strengths you never knew you had. Ready for the ride? Let's get started. Those initial 48 hours? Talk about a slap in the face from reality. You know, we're so used to flipping a switch for instant gratification. Light, heat, you name it. Suddenly, those luxuries are gone and bam, everything changes. Simple morning routines like making breakfast or a hot cup of joe turned into an episode of Survivor. No electric stove, no microwave, just me and a fire I had to keep alive. And washing up? Forget the luxury of hot running water. It was all about boiling what I needed over open flames. Let me tell you, that's a real chore. My phone and the internet? Gone without a charge, unless you count the old wind-up radio and my car battery for emergencies. Imagine using your phone only when you absolutely had to, conserving every precious bit of battery for critical moments. Then came the nights. Ever tried navigating your own home in pitch darkness? It's like being a stranger in your own space. No flick of the switch to banish the shadows, just candlelight flickering and barely pushing back the night. Entertainment options were out the window too. No late-night TV or browsing the internet. But let's get real here. As tough as those days were, they peeled back the curtain on what I'm made of. Adaptability, resilience, resourcefulness. Turns out when push comes to shove, those aren't just buzzwords but real-life survival skills. And fire, that primal force, it's not just about cooking or staying warm. It's about comfort, about connecting to something ancient and grounding when all the modern noise fades away. So, as rough as those first days were, they taught me more about myself than I could have imagined. It's about getting back to the essentials, to what really matters. And folks, isn't that what we all need a reminder of now and then? As rough as those first couple of days were, they threw me into the deep end, teaching me to be resourceful, to adapt on the fly. It made me slow my roll, think about every move I made, and consider its impact. That challenging start? It was just the beginning. It prepped me for the lessons ahead, lessons more valuable than I ever expected. As the week progressed, I really started to get the hang of it. It was a tough climb up that learning curve, but I learned how to make do with what I had. By midweek, I wasn't just scraping by without electricity. I was actually living, really living. I figured out how to make those non-electric tools work for me. That hand crank radio, it became my lifeline, keeping me connected to the world beyond my immediate unlit surroundings. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the crackle of that radio in the pitch black of night. I leaned heavily on fire, for warmth, cooking, and light. It highlighted the critical need for a solid fire starter. Matches are fine, lighters are handy, but a fire steel, that's the real MVP. Durable, reusable, never runs out of juice. For lighting, I turned to oil lamps. Their warm, comforting glow was a stark contrast to the cold, impersonal light of LED bulbs, and they even helped take the edge off the cooler nights. And then there were the surprises, the things I thought I couldn't live without but barely missed. The electric can opener? Swapped for a manual one that did the job just as well with a bit more elbow grease. And that electric kettle? Turns out a pot on the fire isn't just quaint, it's effective. This adaptation process wasn't just about finding replacements. It was a deep dive into what I truly needed. A chance to strip back to basics and question every assumption about comfort and convenience. By day 4, I was more than just coping without electricity. I was starting to relish the simplicity of this new lifestyle. It was humbling, it tested my limits, and it reminded me that sometimes simplicity really is the ultimate sophistication. As I approached the end of the week, the real transformation began. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, enjoying the purity of a life uncluttered by endless electronic buzz. With distractions stripped away, I focused on the basics: food, warmth, connection. It was about conservation, planning, and appreciating the small joys. I discovered that with a little ingenuity, you can achieve a lot with very little. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, folks, and one that speaks volumes in our overconnected, overcomplicated world. One of the most profound lessons from this experience was the sheer importance of planning ahead. Without the convenience of a refrigerator, I had to meticulously plan my meals to ensure nothing went to waste. I also had to carefully manage my firewood supply to make sure it lasted through the week. This week really hammered home the value of foresight and prudence, traits that often get lost in the hustle of our convenience-driven lives. Then there was the unexpected revelation of appreciating the non-material things in life. With the constant noise of technology gone, I found peace in the quiet. The simple joy of reading by candlelight, cooking a meal from scratch, and savoring the calm of the early morning without electronic interruptions. It all reminded me that real happiness isn't tied up in what we own. It's found in the simple, quiet moments. But maybe the most significant shift was in how new routines naturally formed. I began to live by the sun's schedule, waking up at dawn and winding down with the sunset. Daily chores like collecting firewood or boiling water for tea turned into meaningful rituals. This wasn't just going back to basics. It felt like a return to a more natural, organic way of living, a surprisingly fitting lifestyle. The final days of this off-grid challenge really showcased the remarkable adaptability and resilience of the human spirit. Despite the initial shock and struggles, I didn't just get by. I thrived. This wasn't merely about enduring a week without modern luxuries. It was a transformative journey that reshaped my outlook on life. And it's a journey I believe holds valuable lessons for all of us. It's not merely about surviving, but about learning to live more with less, to truly value the simple things that life offers. Looking back, it's striking to see how our view of what's necessary can shift dramatically when stripped of our usual comforts. This adventure into a life less dependent on modern conveniences didn't just test my survival skills, it enriched my understanding of what truly matters. And that, my friends, is an insight worth embracing, whether you're in a city apartment or out in the wilderness. So remember, sometimes the best way to find out what you really need is to get rid of everything you don't. One of the most crucial aspects of this experience was understanding the indispensable role of reliable heat and light sources. A good, old-fashioned fire became more than just a comfort. It was a lifeline. It provided warmth, allowed me to cook, and served as a beacon through the dark nights. Those simple matches, often taken for granted, became as precious as gold. And let's talk about water. Without electricity, the importance of having access to clean, potable water cannot be overstated. It was essential for drinking, cooking, and staying clean. A robust water filter and a solid plan for collecting water were absolutely critical. Through this journey, I also learned that many things I once thought were indispensable really weren't. All those electronic gadgets, practically useless without power, and that refrigerator, nothing more than a giant paperweight after the first couple of days. It turned out that a lot of the kitchen appliances were just taking up space. When you're down to cooking over a fire, what you really need are just a few basics like a reliable pot and a sharp knife. And you know what? There were things I didn't even miss. The TV, for instance, didn't give it a second thought. Instead, I found myself buried in books, taking in the natural world around me, and appreciating the quiet. Reflecting on all this, it's crystal clear that our lives are cluttered with objects we think we need. But when push comes to shove, they aren't essential at all. We surround ourselves with this clutter that demands our attention and saps our energy, without giving much back. This week wasn't just about honing my survival skills. It was about refining my understanding of what really matters. When you strip away all the noise of modern life, what you're left with are the true essentials: warmth, food, water, and resilience. These are the real necessities. Everything else is just extra. Now let's talk routine. When the electricity zaps out and leaves us in the dark, it's mighty easy to lose our bearings. Establishing a daily routine is like building a lighthouse in a storm. It gives you direction and keeps you steady. And patience, don't get me started. Without modern conveniences, everything takes a bit longer. Cooking over an open fire, washing clothes by hand, you name it. But here's the silver lining. It slows you down in the best way possible, helping you appreciate the basics, reminding us of how our grandparents did things. Next up, decluttering. When you're stripped down to the essentials, it's crystal clear what you need and what you don't. It's the perfect chance to cut the fat from your life, and trust me, it's liberating. Keep that mindset even when the power's back and life returns to normal. So, wrapping this up, my week without electricity, it was more than just making it through. It was a masterclass in the school of life. I learned about necessity, about resilience, and about just how adaptable we can be. And one of the biggest takeaways? Appreciating and conserving energy. We take for granted flicking switches left and right without thinking about the juice flowing behind those walls. This journey was eye-opening. It's shown me just how much we depend on electricity and why it's crucial to be ready for times when it might not be there. I hope my experience gets you thinking about your own preparedness and what's really important in your life. So next time the lights go out, remember, it's not just about getting by. It's about growing, learning, and living more intentionally. I've shared my journey. Now I'd love to hear about yours. Did this story strike a chord? Are you thinking about how you'd fare without electricity? Hit that thumbs up if you found this interesting, share it with your pals, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I'm eager to read your comments down below. Remember, folks, being prepared is not just about stocking up. It's about being flexible, resilient, and understanding the true essentials. Thanks for tuning in, and stay prepared.